The podcast that floats down here.
Hello and welcome back to the podcast that floats down here. I have decided tonight that I'm going to be Melissa. I am joined by Luke.
Basically still Luke, hello.
And the other guy in the room is Ben.
Yep, I guess so.
So we're here, and it's great. And we're having lots of fun. We hope you are too. And if you're not, well, I'm not sure why you're here, but welcome anyway.
We appreciate you torturing yourself with us.
Yes, that's what we're here for. Tonight we are discussing Part 3, Grown-Ups, Chapter 11, Walking Tours, Section 2, Eddie Kasprak Makes a Catch. Again, this whole chapter was 74 pages long, so we decided to cut it up into pieces, and we're taking Section 2, which was only 12 pages long, which was only 1.1% of this book. So, Benj, tell us about Eddie's catch.
Eddie takes the bus down to Kansas Street and Coosa Lane. He considers walking down to West Broadway and checking out the
nice neighborhood with the Victorian homes. Eddie keeps walking and ends up at the Trucker Brothers Truck Depot, with its baseball field behind it. Eddie used to spend his summer days here watching the older boys play, and sometimes Stan Uris would join them. Stan was an okay batter, but in the field, he could run fast and had the reflexes of an angel. Eddie only witnessed 2 home runs there, both by Belch Huggins, a huge boy who was too big for his own good. The first was never found. The second was hit so hard, the cover came clean off. Eddie, lost in thought, makes his way over to the chain link fence and stares down into the overgrown area that is the Barrens. He sees one of the sewer pipe entrances that Ben used to call Morlock holes. As he turns to walk back, a baseball is thrown to him from over the fence. A baseball with no cover. And standing down in the Barrens was Belch Huggins in a Yankees uniform with leprosy, wanting Eddie to come down and play. Belch turns into the leper from Newbold Street, which climbed the fence as it melted and disappeared with a pop. Eddie begins to run back to the street and was confronted with horrific faces of his past. A skull, a face smashed in a car accident, and worst of all, a Yankees uniform! Eddie runs for his life, having visions of what was written on a balloon. Asthma medicine causes lung cancer. Exhausted, Eddie collapses, and a group of kids steer clear and talk about calling the cops. Because who knows? This weird guy might just be the killer.
All right, let's talk about Eddie and his decision to maybe walk past Greta's house.
I liked his description of himself. He's like, I was never invited to play on the Saturday croquet because I was thin-chested, asthmatic, and had the face of a drowned rat. At least you're calling yourself up for, your shortcomings.
See, like that self-choosing to see those things, like, that's why it happens. Like, if he had any confidence in himself, guess what? He's going to look a lot better to her. Like, that solves everything. Like, it's just fake it until someone else makes it for you kind of thing. And, like, the fact that he thinks so little of himself is exactly why other people see so little of him.
Anybody else bothered by the fact that he totally believed that she didn't see him as a kid?
Yeah. I think she absolutely saw him.
I absolutely think she saw him.
Because of the way he interacts with people, at least with her, it's not noticeable. So, you know what? Guess what? You don't get rewarded because, with her attention, because you've already given up on yourself. I think it goes right hand in hand with that same kind of concept I was trying to get to a minute ago.
Yes. It just bothers me about her personality. And I agree that a lot of it comes from the way he carries himself, but some girls just suck.
Oh, yeah. That's... Some, yeah.
Greta's one of them. I don't like you.
It was nice to see that Eddie, at least had a crush. Because we've seen that with Ben and Beverly and, even Richie and Beverly a little bit too. But this is the first real instance we've had like this from Eddie outside of, his wife, which I don't think he ever really had a crush on her. He felt like obligated to be with her over time. She fills that motherly role for him that he has been trained to think that he has to have. So again, he kind of feels obligated that she was the only one that would marry him, kind of thing, and then lives the rest of his life that way.
Can I talk about the Tracker brothers?
Can
I think
you?
I like those guys.
Okay.
So I love how the juxtaposition of the Greta stuff and the fancy neighborhoods, the way King transitions from that location to the baseball location by talking about the Tracker brothers' house and how absolutely pristine and well cared for and beautiful and landscaped it was, juxtaposed with their business, which looks like crap.
Mm-hmm.
So why is there such a discrepancy between those two properties? Why are they in such different states of repair?
Well, two thoughts. Either A, Eddie's mom is right, and one of them is on the homosexual side and likes to have upkeep, like well-maintained yard. The other side of it is there's guys, like I work with construction guys and everything. You see the inside of their trucks or whatever, it's terribly nasty. They don't care because it's work. It just, you get the job done, it's work. But home is their castle. And they make enough money to live in the rich neighborhood, the rich streets, all that. They want to make sure they're doing the proper thing and keeping it looking good. It's understandable. I mean, I understand your point, why it would look so different, or it doesn't make sense. But to me, I've seen it.
Or I wonder if this is going to sound so crazy. Like they keep their home the way they want it. They keep the truck stop the way their truckers want it. So they keep the truckers.
I was going to say, I feel like it falls right into, it's like an industrial transportation business. Like it's what truckers would be used to. It's just what that business would be. Like if it's overly pristine for the business side, like it's just, one, doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Like it doesn't need to be that clean to go hauling things like that, depending on what you're hauling. But
right,
like it's a messy job. Like it just is. They don't have to be messy at home, but the work is messy. So let it just carry that same kind of thing itself. So where was the baseball field at?
It was the back lot of the trucker business. So like they tried to keep all their trucks in the one lot because they like to keep the second lot open as a baseball field.
Right. And so like the reason I asked was because they go through and Eddie's talking about how they used to keep the baseball field portion of it super clean, free of broken glass bottles and all these things. So that's why I wanted to make sure as to which area it actually was at.
Well, that was actually the kids keeping it clean.
Right. Yeah. They were the ones that had gone through and made sure all the broken glass bottles, which I guess could be from the trucker portion, right?
Yeah.
Theoretically, absolutely.
Yeah.
Not really theoretical at all.
Right. In these two sections that we just talked about 2 weeks ago and today, it's interesting to see what each one of the losers are focusing on in their chapters. Like obviously these are things in their mentality and these are things that they would recognize because that's part of who their characters are, but Ben was like very, very detailed about remembering the library building itself, right? I mean, he's talking about the different pathways and all these things and the lighting. Like, yeah, he's an architect and he does these things, but it's very much written into that his active thoughts fall right into that. Same thing we have with Eddie here. He's very clearly focused on this industrial transportation type element. Yeah, again, that's what his experience is, that's what his knowledge base is, but it's very clear, like it's almost caricature-esque, on, hey, these are the only things that they're going to really pay much attention to, if that makes sense.
No, agreed, because like my next note on there was it's interesting that he was drawn to another transportation destination because
right.
He had the rail yards and Evold Street, and now this one, it's kind of showing the signs of that's where he's happy. That's what he's good at. It's being behind the wheel.
So I did not think about that at all. But my thought was this: as we went into the memory of the baseball field versus the reality of what the baseball field is now, did anyone else get the feeling of the end of the movie The Sandlot?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It was so sad. Like, that's what this moment reminds me of. Not the big baseball game, not the Major League Baseball game.
After
like,
the years later when no one's been playing on it anymore.
I don't even remember that scene.
Yeah. And it just, the field goes into disrepair because no one's taking care of it anymore. And Yeah, no, like I absolutely got Sandlot feel from this.
Yeah, this was such a Sandlot moment to me. So that's all. That was like my only real thought on the transition into this area. Let's talk about the baseball games that were played.
So Stan actually played with the older kids, because he was agile and fast. He was okay at the bat, but put him in the field, he was like an angel, according to Eddie. So, and that's something else we didn't know about Stan. We didn't know he was athletic.
Right.
Put it on the very short list.
Yeah, exactly. He's tidy and he's athletic. All right.
And he likes birds.
I was gonna say he likes birds.
And he's Jewish. That's so bad. Sorry. Please forgive me. Oh wait, Catholic abuse coming out. How about Belch? There was a lot of Belch.
There was a lot of Belch Huggins here. So he was the only person to hit home runs over the fence. They call him the automatic. It was just interesting that I think they said no one could find the first ball, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But then the one that unraveled, they did find, and they returned it back to Tony Tracker, even though it was I forget the other kid's name. It was somebody else's ball, but they brought it back and like ceremoniously like displayed it to Tony Tracker. Like, can you believe this? Like, it was just so funny. Like, just seeing these kids, carry this unraveled twine and cork ball back to him, and I just thought that was funny.
I have a question.
Sure.
It's going to sound like a girl question, but I want to preface this by saying I'm a huge baseball fan, and I've been watching baseball my entire life, and like I don't mean it as a girl question. I mean it as somebody who didn't actually play baseball on her own. Okay, can you really hit the cover off a baseball?
Yes.
No, not really.
On a ball like that they described, yes, where the stitching is already coming off, where it's already loose and it's already tattered and everything like that. Yes, you can. You can hit it and break the cover off, and it'll come loose eventually.
Yeah, if you somehow ripped the stitching and it was already fairly destroyed, yeah. I mean that could, if it's a decent ball, that's not going to happen.
No, I mean,
See, and I asked the question because to me it sounds more like tween boy myth. Oh yeah, I knew this guy that hit. You know what I mean? Like, anybody ever know somebody who really did it? That's my question. Oh, I knew a guy who told me a story about.
Right.
Like, it's one
Anecdotal,
of those kind of yeah, like urban legend kinds of things, and that's how it felt. Except that Eddie saw it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But again, fiction book. So I just want to know: is that like?
Yeah. Again, most time normally no, but the shape
And
that it was in.
I figured that, but I want to know: like, has anybody ever, for real?
I mean, haven't you seen Angels in the Outfield? The guy hits the cover off the ball. I mean, haven't you seen, like Bull Durham? I mean,
And I have seen Angels in the Outfield. I have seen Bull Durham. In fact, the other day, watched a movie about baseball with Amy Adams and Clint Eastwood, and they were scouts. Like, yeah, no, I baseball, but I don't trust any of it. Moneyball, seen that too.
Yeah. My note on it with talking about Belch was that probably was a pretty good thunk when he got Conseco'd.
Yeah.
Taking the ball off his head, but he did catch the ball. That's the other thing.
It didn't go over the fence like Jose Canseco.
No, it didn't go to the fence, but he went off his head and into his glove. I mean, I wouldn't be able to not laugh at that. It's,
I also got that reference.
I appreciate that.
Nice.
Improving my
Yeah.
baseballness.
My
It's a
baseball
math game.
listening.
That's why I like it.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Belch and the fact that he's dead.
Yeah, that was new information.
Okay, I didn't remember if we had known that or not before.
That was new information to me that he
Good.
was murdered in the tunnels under Derry in August of '58. So that was
kind
cool.
of because we haven't really met. This is the first hearing of Patrick Hofstadter, correct?
Hochstetter.
Hofstadter.
Let me check real quick. I don't know.
I-
It doesn't. It didn't sound familiar, but
Okay.
there have been so many like, hey, murdered kids.
Yeah.
No, he has been mentioned a few times. He was mentioned in chapter 1.
Okay, I couldn't remember it.
Face of a boy named Patrick Hochstetter, along with Betty Ripsom, Eddie Corcoran as well.
Gotcha. So yeah, but we do find out he was taken as well down in the Morlock holes, as
Mhm.
Eddie calls it. While they were down there. So thought that was an interesting that because we found out about Belch and then Patrick. That's where he ended up as well.
And of course, then we see Belch.
We do.
And Greta. And Patrick. And
And-
Tony. Oh my.
Yeah, that was a good scene. Very, very creepily done. And the
Return of the Leper too. Yeah, the Leper was in there. At least
Yeah.
the voice of the Leper. I don't know if it said it changed much into exactly what it was, but I thought it
turned
did.
into Leper that was at 59 Evil Street, and he's the one that was climbing the fence, and then he turned and he was gone. Just
Right, that's right. Yeah,
that was a good jump scare chapter of okay, what is going on? You know, like, and he starts to run back to home base, and then I like it was like a giant gopher was running up the first base line, then popped out. And was it Greta or Tony that popped out?
it was Tony
Tony
that
popped
popped out.
Tony popped out, then turned into Greta. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just, for fun, would like to give a description of Belch turning into the leper.
Yeah, go for it.
It was great. He was Belch, but he was also the leper, a creature hideously arisen from long years in a wet grave. The flesh of his heavy face hung in putrescent strings and runners. One eye socket was empty. Things squirmed in his hair. He wore a moss-slimed baseball glove on one hand. He poked the rotting fingers of his right hand through the diamonds of the chain-link fence, and when he curled them, Eddie heard a dreadful squirting sound, which he thought might drive him mad. Belch's face changed. The jelly-like bulb of a nose fell in, revealing two raw red channels that Eddie had seen in his dreams. His hair coarsened and drew back from his temples, turned cobweb white. The rotting skin on his forehead split open, revealing white bone covered with a mucousy substance like the bleared lens of a searchlight. Belch was gone. The thing which had been under the porch at 29 Nebold Street was here now. Gross.
Yeah, that's the way King writes, like just in general, it's so visceral. Like it's so descriptive. It's so
Disgusting.
yeah, like you can almost taste what he's describing. Like it's so thick with adjectives and just like so descriptive. It's really impressive.
Yeah, and then to top that all off, Belch and Patrick were both in Yankees uniforms, which, let's be honest, you know, back in that time, the scariest thing to a Red Sox fan was the Yankees because they could never win, you know, back in the 80s.
That's true. At least they weren't in White Sox uniforms. Thank you, Field of Dreams.
Right.
Another one right here.
Yeah.
It's me. I'm not even looking them up.
How many more are you gonna try to pull out here? How about Major League 2, Return to the or Back to the
How about-
Minors?
How about the Natural or Mr.
How-
Baseball?
The Rookie.
Oh, what's the one with Kevin Costner where he tries to pitch a perfect game? Is it called Perfect Game?
This is actually
I
just turning
like-
into a baseball podcast. We're just gonna start talking about baseball movies.
But it's a baseball chapter.
I'm just teasing.
I like baseball.
We know
Baseball
that.
too.
We've been talking about how much you like baseball. We're happy that you like baseball too, Melissa. You can join the baseball club. You're welcome.
I don't have to play though, right?
No, you can keep score.
No, I'd be there. You go. I'll do stats.
Yeah.
I like that it pulls out the dead people he pulls out are all the people Eddie had just been thinking of. Once
Mhm.
again, pulling those right from their front of the brain thoughts and twisting them. Even Greta died in a car accident. Poor Greta. Not really.
But
I mean,
so like that was interesting too. Like he didn't know that Greta died because he was wondering where she was nowadays. Like he
Right.
thought about walking over there, but he was like, "Oh, I don't want to see her with gray streaks in her hair and all these things." Like, do we think that she actually died in a car crash and Pennywise just told Eddie that? Like, is that really what happened, or is that basically Eddie's head making that up? Just assuming. Like, where does that information come from? Is I think
No, that
a
makes
question.
sense.
I don't know.
And that makes sense because also she died in a car crash. His profession, his livelihood,
Ooh, good call.
I like that.
So, I mean, it's possible that that's just a
Pennywise pulling that on him because that would scare Eddie. I would think, because
like his first, crush, his, and everything dying in what happens and what he, does. I could see that. I mean, I don't know. It's one of those that's up in the air. We don't have confirmation one way or the other at this
Mhm.
point.
and like, what are the limits
and-
on information that Pennywise has? Sorry,
I
Melissa.
feel no, you're fine. I'm making faces at myself because I'm feeling a little naive because I've never questioned the information. Because I don't really think anything else Pennywise has either said to someone or has had dead people say to someone has been false. Like giving information like that, I don't know if he needs to lie because she probably really did die in a car crash. And Pennywise made See, this is how I always took it. Pennywise maybe didn't even need to be involved in the car crash, but because she died in Derry, that makes her his property. Anything, what is dead in Derry may never die.
Yeah,
It rises
there you go.
harder and
kinda,
stronger.
Kind of like the last section with Ben and the balloon saying, "I killed Greta," or or Greta Strutter.
Not Greta.
What's that?
Carol? Not Carol, because that's Carol Danner.
Carol.
Barbara Starrett. Sorry, Barbara Starrett. And basically, because Ben had just found out, hey, she died from a stroke and all that. So technically, like you said, Melissa, that's one of his kills. She lived in town. She was there. It's his.
Of
So,
old age, though? Like, I feel like there has to be...
She was 58. That's
She
not
was
old.
not old.
She had a stroke. Like, had
Oh,
a stroke.
Here's the thing, though. I don't think he did it. I don't think he gave Barbara Starrett a stroke. I think she had a stroke. She died. Dead people become his property.
And that's right. Yeah, I'm agreeing with you on that.
Yeah. I'm arguing with it.
Yeah, I know. I just don't know if... I feel like everything is his property. In
Yeah.
his head, that's my point. Like, I don't think it has to be, someone that died in Derry. Like, there's no difference to that. That's just more fuel for these characters that he's going up against.
Do you think
that
he
they're
would
people
pull,
that they
like...
know.
I don't know. Let's say...
John F. Kennedy. I mean, I feel like he could pull up and show up as John F. Kennedy if that would get the message
serve
across.
his purpose?
Yeah, I think that's all that matters. Is these are people that the victims that he's going after know. So he's pulling these heartstring type motifs.
Okay, question then. Can he only access dead people?
No, I
Like
don't.
he could pull out
I think he could do
Maya.
absolutely anything he wants. I think he could show up as Bill Denborough for one of the other ones. That's how
I
I've
never thought of it that way, but
that's how
all
I've
right.
thought of it. I mean, we don't have any evidence that that's possible, but I feel like he could.
So, on the Pennywise track, I just want to throw this out there. In the last section of this chapter, he really kind of let Ben have it. You need to leave, you need to leave, you need to leave. Never says that to Eddie. It's, you're going to die, you're going to die, you're going to die. I wonder why the tactic changed.
Because he's playing on his fears. Like, Ben isn't afraid to die, per se. Eddie, that's his whole life, is afraid of death and afraid of, so you're gonna die. We're gonna kill you. You're going to die tonight. And so I think that could be along those lines of why he's using that as the fear thing.
Any other final thoughts?
Just the balloon, because another balloon was left for
Yay, balloons.
It's a
Eddie,
green
and
balloon this
It
time.
said, asthma medicine causes lung cancer. Compliments of Center Street Drug.
Wouldn't that be the worst thing for Eddie possible? That's gonna be the thing that
Talk about,
sticks
like-
with him, right? That's absolutely the thing that's gonna stick with him is, okay, this asthma medicine that I've been taking my whole life, it's gonna create a larger issue, like the medicine that kills you slower over time. Like that is exactly the scariest thing in his life.
Right?
It's like a time paradox. He literally can't move if he really stops and thinks about those two things, asthma or lung cancer. He would just stop
He would just go out of existence. He pops
right out.
The only other thing that we didn't really touch on, but it goes with the Tracker brothers, and when they were describing how all the kids, like the windows were all dirty except for the one round circle spot in the window pane, because the Playboy calendar over the desk. I just thought that was funny that all the boys would go by and wipe off the window at the same spot to get a view of this month's pinup. I just thought that was pretty funny.
That look from Melissa.
I have no comment on at this time.
No, it feels like that's what little boys would do. Like, it's just a group of boys go out to play ball like that. It's gonna that would be a thing. I just think it's funny that he worked that in there.
At the beginning of the thing, I said how girls talk, girls like Greta talk. Yeah, guys like the guy who's got the Playboy thing up. Those guys suck too. That's all. Moving on.
Yes.
Let's go into questions for the new reader. Ben, it looks like you've got one.
Yeah, so Eddie talks about when he goes to the chain link fence of, it looks like an overgrown jungle, but he wonders, why was a place like this called the Barrens? Because you think of Barrens, you think of sand dunes and all this. So Luke, why is it called the Barrens?
Yeah, even in that segment there, he goes on to describe it. It had an ominous, almost sinister sound, but what it conjured up in the mind were not tangles of shrubs and trees so thick they had to fight for sun space. They called up sand dunes and all these things. And I feel like it's like, I want to know who started calling it that. You know, like that plays a big part into it for sure. I don't know. Like it's got to be more of a Pennywise induced name of death and destruction, and like life can't grow here, which I think applies to Derry in general, which isn't entirely true because we know the town itself has grown a lot lately. That doesn't mean this dirty underbelly is not still there, and I think it's centered around the Barrens. At least that's part of its life pulse for what Pennywise is. I don't have a real good answer. I don't know.
In fairness, I came up with that question about 30 seconds before we started this episode. So
I definitely liked that question that he had in his own chapter. You know, Eddie was like, it doesn't make sense. Like I thought that was really, really interesting for sure.
So now we get to the new reader ponderings.
Oh.
Questions, speculations, thoughts. You can not have any if you don't have any, but if you have something, now is your time.
Yeah, I don't have a whole lot. We're getting a lot of the same types of things from Pennywise here that we've seen previously, where he's doing this kind of rapid fire, scare you, shotgun approach, where it's like, I'm just going to show you a bunch of different things, and hopefully that's what gets you. But I really do think it's going to be the asthma medicine causes lung cancer thing that sticks with him the most. That's my only real thought there.
That's funny. All right. Let's go to my favorite thing. Luke, let's start with you. What was your favorite thing this time?
My favorite thing was kind of the last line of the chapter itself, and it's kind of long, but I really liked where it ended up. He ran and ran, and at some point he collapsed in a dead faint near McCarran Park. And some kids saw him and steered clear of him because he looked like a wino to them. He might have some disease. For all they knew, he might even be the killer, and they talked about reporting him to the police. But in the end, they didn't. It's very Derry, right? They see this. They know it's probably questionable. They don't do anything. The kids are already not doing anything. Like they see this is something we should probably, report to the authorities. They don't do anything. Like it's just so
and that takes care of the
so
not doing.
Derry, right? I mean, it's the see no evil or see evil, say nothing, and drink to forget.
Ben, how about you? Did you have a favorite thing this section?
yeah, my favorite thing was we've referenced it a couple times, but the Bogart style of shape-shifting into old memories of Eddie's. You know, going from Belch Huggins to the Leper to Tony to Greta to Patrick, and they're all telling him, "You're gonna die. We're gonna get you. You're gonna die." It was just a really well done, creepy scene. You read the descriptions that King put into it. It was just completely visceral, and just you feared for him.
My favorite thing was Eddie's catch, actually, which we didn't really talk about, even though the section was called Eddie Casper Makes a Catch. And it says this: "Catch, kid!" He turned toward the sound of the voice, and here came some sort of ball, right over the fence and toward him. It struck the gravel and bounced. Eddie stuck out his hand and caught it. In his unthinking reflex, the catch was so neat, it was almost elegant. He looked down at what was in his hand, and everything inside him went cool and loose. Once it had been a baseball. Now it was only a string-wrapped sphere, because the cover had been knocked off. He could see the string trailing away. It went over the top of the fence like a strand of spiderweb and disappeared into the barrens. And I like this for two reasons. One, I assume this is the missing Belch Huggins ball. Literally just struck me as I was reading it to you just now. So that's new.
That's why I had mentioned earlier that no one could find the ball earlier.
Oh, you think because
Pennywise took it because he does that. He keeps memorabilia and then uses it later.
So, but the real reason I picked it was the fact that Eddie so elegantly caught a ball. Eddie, who is unathletic and sickly, and he's not really. Even at 38 years old, he did a great catch without even thinking about it.
It's because he wasn't thinking. It's because he wasn't thinking.
Darn thinking.
It's exactly his problem.
And we know he actually kind of is athletic, because even the gym coach to his mom said, Eddie's kind of fast.
When he's not thinking.
Well, yeah, he's a good runner. He can do this. You're just telling him he can't. and so he believes he can't. But Eddie actually has, there's a reason why he's drawn to baseball.
And we're out of ideas for the night. So we're going to let you go. You're going to find us and chat with us in a variety of spaces. First, you're going to go to iTunes, leave a comment. We would appreciate it. Tell us what you think. We, and by we, I mean Luke or Benji, will comment back at you. It'll be great. You can do the same thing on Twitter at Floats Down Here. Again, Luke or Benji will comment back at you, and I might make a snide comment on the side. It'll be fun. You can go to our website where you can find this show and all of our shows, along with a variety of other things, which are fantastic, and I'm sure Luke would love to tell you all about at some point. So go to the website and find out. And you can send us your questions and thoughts, and if you have any pictures of actual baseballs that have been destroyed from a hit, I'd appreciate it. Email that to me at floatsdownhere@gmail.com.
Check out the podcastthat.com/support us page for a lot of different cool ways that you can help support our shows, all of our shows, not just this one, but also our Game of Thrones show, our Harry Potter show, and other upcoming shows. But we have Amazon affiliate links, we have Audible subscription things that you can use to sign up, and we get nice little kickbacks on all of those things. We would really appreciate anything you could do to help support us here.
Join us again in 2 weeks when we discuss more of Chapter 11 Walking Tours with Part 3, Bev Rogan Pays a Call.
You'll float too.
Stay imaginary.
Thanks.